This is my distillation device that I take on my paramotor. So this was an old BioLite container, and it makes a really good seal. And then I put this nozzle in because that's what I had in the garage. So it would be better to use copper. This is a container that I store in there. This is my backup one that I can also use for distilling. If I need to heat it really quick, I can use this one. This one hasn't been on the fire yet. This one has, and I like it because it has these vents on the bottom, so when I set it down in there, I can still get airflow around it. This is food safe silicone here. This tube is. This one is not food safe that I know of. So this is actually, hasn't been used, but it's a siphoning hose. But I needed it for a seal, and I carry it for a backup hose in case something happens to this one. Maybe it drops into the fire, I can still distill with this. Now, typically how this layout works is I'll put water in. It has measurements on the side, so I take it up to a liter, but I'm going to try to get as much as I can, bring these handles out so that I can grip those if I need to, and then place this down inside. It makes a really good seal. That'll make a seal here. This goes directly on the fire. What I've been doing is building like a mound to support the hose. So let's pretend this is on the fire. And then this locks down on here. Now what I don't want to happen, so this is the reason I would build a mound, so that would drain, this would be lower. And you could cut this if you wanted to. It doesn't necessarily need to be that long. But the reason I keep it that long is the mound that I build, I cool down with contaminated water to help cool this off. So that would be further away, keeping this nice and straight so that it'll drain, and this being downhill. Notice that this does not make a seal, and I don't want it to. I want steam to leak from it. I don't want pressure to build up, because then it's going to cause other leaks in other areas. Plus, it wouldn't explode, but I don't want any pressure to build up in this container. I want some steam to leak through here so that the water will drain in, extra steam will get inside the return, and I can collect the fresh water. You don't want to fill this one up any more than a liter, because if you do that, it's going to bubble up and come out through the hose and contaminate the water. So if this was salt water, which is typically where I use this, is at the beach, I don't want salt water to get in here and contaminate my distilled water. Not that I couldn't drink it, it's still going to have less salt in it than it would, because eventually it will start to distill. Once a lot of that water evaporates off, it's not going to get into the return. And I mark these as, this one's used for distillation because it's going to build up salt or minerals or contaminants in that. And this will always be used as my return. That's the reason I placed it inside this container. This will always be used as distillation. So this is my backup device. But it's portable. I can take it with me on my paramotor, fly into a location, especially if there's salt water. And this is large enough where it's going to distill. I'm getting about, out of this one, I guess because it's so large, I'm getting about a half cup in 30 minutes. When I connect this one and use this one as the heat source and this one as the return, this one's only producing about a quarter cup. And so I don't know why there's a difference between the two, unless it has something to do with the seal. But this one definitely produces more, about double of what I can do with this. Now I have a giant pot still that I take with me. Let me show that to you. It actually fit into one of my bags, my waterproof bags. And so it has everything that needs to go in it. It has a temperature gauge up here at the top. This has a cooling mechanism that once you lock this down, so you lock this down, this mounts in here. You pour cooler water in here that's going to cool off the condensation, and it produces way more. So I have a video on this, me using this out in my backyard. But as you can see, I've used it at the beach. It still has sand in here where I use sandy water to cool that off, and corrosion on the copper from that salt water. This one you can leave on the fire overnight. And like I said, it fits inside my dry bag, one of my smaller dry bags. Well, not smaller, but it's not my largest. And I can put food in this. Anything I don't want to get broken that needs to be protected from impact, I can stuff this full. And then when I use this for distillation, after it's used for distillation overnight, I can dry it out really good and take off with it. If you're distilling salt water, you can use some of that salt to use in food if it's a safe source of seawater that you're using that hasn't been contaminated.